So, after going through today's material, I find it a little bit interesting when reading the article about differentiated instruction. And I think it's made me realize that my idea of differentiated instruction is perhaps a little bit different. I guess maybe I was thinking that differentiated instruction and universal design for learning were the same thing. And as much as they're probably related, after reading the article, I do not believe that they are entirely the same thing. I know, Tim, you had mentioned that that Gardner's multiple intelligences is kind of a faux pas these days, and I suppose UDL more focuses on those multiple intelligences, whereas differentiated learning is for your different levels of learners, if you will. The thing that I found most surprising in the article actually was that you should not be pairing stronger students with weaker students so that they can kind of help encourage and guide and potentially help reteach those weaker students, as that's something that I have utilized in the classroom and I found it to be quite effective. Always needing to be mindful of who you're kind of pairing together, because you need to be certain that the personalities can kind of match, and if they are a strong student, that they have that nurturing bone in their body, if you will. But I've found it to be effective previously, so I'm kind of intrigued that that's not something that should be utilized. And then when looking at the multiliteracies kind of article or website link, the Socratic Seminar, I definitely very much appreciate and think is a fabulous tool to utilize. I do think where exactly I can place that in a more practical, hands-on, skill-based class, as much as I love it, I think I would definitely have to dig a little deeper to know where that might have its place in my classroom, but I do think it's very valid, and I love the idea of sharing within a circle. I think it's very similar to what we do, except we don't have the space to have 40 some odd humans in a circle in the classroom that we're set up in. But it certainly feels much like a Socratic seminar when we have our days on campus with Tim. So that was very cool. I have never heard of an artifact box prior, and I very much like the idea, and I like the fact that when it comes to an artifact box, depending on the skill, can be the level of, not definition, but explanation behind each artifact, or even potentially utilizing an artifact box as a hook for a lesson plan. Perhaps having a box filled with tools that are intended for cutting, and kind of have it out on display and ask the students, what do you think we're learning about today? Why do you think that way? What's the relation here? So definitely something neat that I will put in my back pocket for another time. And interdisciplinary lessons and collaboration, I have always appreciated and admired that. I think that when it comes to hairstyling, we definitely tried to integrate that with our hair mask unit plan, semester or summer one, in terms of meeting up with the culinary students and assessing their hair type and all that good stuff. Assessing their hair type and then having them develop the recipes for the hair masks and so on and so forth. The raft assignment I do like as well. I think it's something that I would definitely have to dig in deeper to. to really have a better foundation of learning. But I do like that the assessment tool is essentially passed on to the students, and they have the little check boxes. Was it completed? And what do I give myself? That's really neat. I myself took advantage of the video blog format, if you will, with one of Darren's classes in a final assignment when it came to the final reflection. I'm more of a talker than a typer and writer and editor and obsessing over, did I write out my thoughts perfectly? I find I can speak a little bit more fluidly, and especially if I have some notes to roll off of, as I've been trying to kind of keep track with. And he was actually really impressed that I took the initiative to just submit a video as opposed to another written document. He actually was kind of fond of the idea and thought he would add it into his future classes, so that was pretty neat. And then the did you know section, the flaps of the body book, and that kind of made me think almost of like a Family Feud type format where we can discuss a topic and important subcategories, or what are the different braids, what do you think of whenever we talk about braids? Let's say 3-strand braid, 4-strand braid, elastics, spray bottle, tail comb, just different things like that, so just something kind of more fun and engaging. But the flaps of the book kind of just made me think of, that how that might be really fun for the kids. So again, it's something that I would definitely have to contemplate a little further and realize where I would kind of implement that into my classroom. But overall, I think in terms of intelligences, but differentiated instruction, really finding that sweet spot of where's the middle ground, and this is kind of your common expectation, but then, simplifying that for potentially kids that have either lower grades or potentially kids on IEPs or ESL. And then your more gifted kids, let's say, having them do something a little bit more extensive. And I definitely agree that if you're done early, that you shouldn't just be able to have the free time. But it does become quite difficult in a tech class because students are not streamed one way or the other, which I think is a good thing. I like the fact that you have students of all different abilities mixing and mingling in one classroom. I think that there is a more global approach, if you will, in that circumstance, but I feel as though, it's going to be a challenge because we're going to have kids that are used to being 80s and 90s, and we're going to have kids that are taking our class just to get a pass. So you kind of have to meet them in the middle and then elaborate one way or the other. So it's been fun. I use my history of hair lesson that went super well in my practicum as my inspiration, and I'm really lucky I have a wonderful resource to bounce ideas off with Miss Bolton. So on that note, I spent a lot of time developing one of my videos, and it's not even done yet. So we're going to bed because it's like 11 o'clock. I'll see you tomorrow.